so we can provide information for those who are not able to join us today, and they can go back and review the information at a later date, later time. Or before we get started, uh, Debbie Williamson, John Levinson, I really, really want to thank you both for providing the opportunity and to sharing of your time on a day when I freely admit you both could be doing something completely different with your own time right about now, but you're willing to share it with others, and we really, really appreciate that. I want to thank you both for being here today.
You're welcome.
I could go down, each one of your bios, this long list of experiences and accomplishments. That's kind of boring. Why don't you both just share with the group your background, give them a sense of who you are, and not just what you do, but who you are and why you do what you do. Let's start. Hey, you know what, John? Let's start with Debbie first, please.
Well, thanks for the opportunity today. I appreciate it. I don't know how far back you want me to go, but
Well, if you notice in the little blurb I posted for the meeting, I went all the way back to when you were playing
yeah,
at
yeah,
at
saw
La
that.
Tech.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Um, yeah, so that would, I mean, if we just started the college scene, I mean, basketball was always my heart. So
Mhm.
I had to go to school on a softball scholarship to be able to get on a basketball team, but that's what I did. And we were
Mm.
really strong. We went to 4 Final Fours, and I didn't play a whole lot because the guard in front of me was Kilmulky, which is quite entertaining today as we look back on those days. Very little has
Right.
changed. Uh, but I got out and immediately, right after I got my master's, went into college coaching. I was a Division I assistant for 5 years. And then back then in the late 80s, obviously no cell phones, none of that. I
Mm.
just had decided I didn't want to, and we didn't also have like the calendars they have now. So we were out recruiting all the time.
Right.
And I felt like God had put me on this earth to be a mom. And I didn't know that for a long time, but really felt convicted about it, that if I ever got pregnant, I would just want to raise my own kids. And that's what I did. I had Courtney, who is 35 now. She's a physical therapist for a Duke clinic here in North Carolina. And then a couple years later, I had Mark. And then 4 years later, I had Nathan. And then just basically followed my husband's career. And I
Mhm.
just said, Lord, if I can commit myself to raising my own kids, would you please give me basketball back at some point? Because that's really what I feel where my heart is outside of the kids. And, um, I ended up coaching the high school boys teams and just piddling, really doing things that would allow me to be with the kids. And then I thought, well, I'll just go get my doctorate and then I'll work wherever Stan is an AD because he was in Division I athletics. And
Right.
I just kept missing basketball, missing basketball. Now my kids were in high school and they were playing, and I was, working on my dissertation. And a couple guys I was teaching at a junior college just kept trying to get me to referee. And I was like, you're out of your mind, man. I would never do that. And but I got really hungry enough for basketball, desperate enough that I would go referee, middle school and high school, and then still be able to homeschool the kids all day, drive to my game. And that went into college ball. And I looked up, and 7 years later, I was gone. I was missing my kids' games. And
Right.
I just thought I didn't get out of coaching um, to raise my kids, to leave my kids to referee. And so it just so happened that the NCAA SRE job came open. My husband was a Division I AD at the time, and he brought the job description to me. And I knew in that moment that that's what I needed to do. I didn't think I could get the job. I didn't even tell anybody I applied.
Hmm.
But in God's providence, for us and our family, that's what I did. So I stepped off the court again, and here we are, 20 something years later, or 20, almost
Yeah.
20 years later. and I've been a conference supervisor for 12, this is my 12th year. So
Right.
that's kind of
Right.
the short version of it. And John replaced me as Secretary Rules Editor and has just done a
Yes, he
phenomenal
did.
job. And he's obviously in his last year, and I just can't thank him enough for being such a good steward of the work that me and Barbara Jacobs and Marcy Weston put in, um,
Mm,
because it goes that far back. I mean, we're the only other rules editors, if you will, because our game is so our NCAA game is so young.
right.
Um, but yeah, that's basically my story, and I would just say I never could have written this the
I was
way
just
that
about to
it's turned
say.
out. I wouldn't have been smart enough to do it. I wouldn't have chosen to do it probably. But I feel like God's put me in a place where
Hmm.
um, I can use the gifts I have and still be with my family. And um, it's changed kind of to what y'all were saying. A lot of things have changed,
Right.
but everybody on this Zoom could talk about how different things are than they were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But
Most of us on the Zoom could. Some of us were probably just born around on that same time, to be honest with you.
oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. But you're 100% correct. The path was laid in front of you, and you just followed it. You
Yeah,
followed it. Yeah,
just
that's
did
that's
what
one.
do what you know to what do the best you can with what you have where you are,
Yes.
and be faithful. And I think too, for me, is just, just in my faith journey, I said,
Hmm.
Lord, I'll go wherever you want me to go. I'll do whatever you want me to do, and help me to be faithful and be a good steward myself. And
Yeah.
I've continued to grow in my relationship with Christ, and just still to this day asking for wisdom and trying to do my best to lean on him for that. But
Every
anyway,
day.
that's the
Every
5 minute
day.
version of the last 60 years. So
Debbie, thank you so much for
you're
sharing. I
welcome.
mean, we really, really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Of course, now I'll put John on the spot. I'm sorry, John. You can share a little bit of your background with it. I know it's hard to follow. I get that.
Oh, actually, I don't think it is because because it's a completely different path.
Hmm.
I did not like the game of basketball growing up. I did not play it. I did not want to watch it. The only reason why I went to watch any games when I was in high school, and that was only my senior year, was because my friends were all going to games, and then we were all going out drinking after. So we would pile into my friend's station wagon and we would drive all over and watch our boys team play. You know, a lot of our friends were seniors and they were captains of the high school basketball team, and we'd go watch them play, and half the time they won and half the time they lost. But since the statute of limitations has expired on all of our misbehavior, like buying alcohol when we weren't of age to do so, but we did
Right.
anyway. Um, I mean, that was my thing was baseball. I started umpiring little kids baseball when I was in the seventh grade. Um, I was doing, little league and everything up all through high school. Uh, I went to Rutgers University, started in the fall of 81,
Hmm.
and didn't really find myself connected to anything when I was in school. And when basketball season started, my friends were like, well, why don't you come with us to a game? So the game that I went to was a men's women's doubleheader, UCLA playing Rutgers at the Meadowlands the arena has had a lot of different names in the past, but in the Meadowlands at the nice arena, and the women played first and then the men. And, because I was an umpire, I didn't really watch the basketball game like from a fan's perspective. I started watching the officials. And so I was watching what they were doing and trying to figure the game out based on what I was observing. And at that time, the ECAC, which was at that time was really huge in the Northeast, and in fact, ECAC until the Big East started their own officiating bureau for men's basketball. Art Highland, who at one time was the men's SRE, he was the first supervisor for Big East men's basketball. ECAC assigned everything, Division One, Two, and Three. They did everything, and so
Mm.
they hosted a holiday festival, usually between Christmas and New Year's at Madison Square Garden. And so we played my freshman year. We played. Yeah, we played. Yeah, we played against this team. They had guys named Worthy and Jordan and
No.
Doherty, and so we had front row seats under the basket. But probably the most important thing I did that night was there used to be, I may still be there, a sports store called Jerry Cosby's. You could buy basketballs and hockey equipment and all sorts of things there. The most important thing that they sold that night that I went was the 1981-82 men's basketball rule book.
Mm.
I bought it, and when I
Wow.
got home that night, took the subway and the bus home after the games, and of course we did not do too well against the Tar Heels. But I stayed up all night and I read that book. And at the time, the rule book and the case book were combined. And I then became, when we would go to games at the rack on campus, I became the resident expert on whether we liked the referees that night. And so I would say, we like that guy, we like this guy, but that guy, the furthest one away from us, we don't like him. Like, we should just not like him because he's terrible. What did I know? I read a book and I used just like whatever officiating knowledge I had from baseball, and that's how I made these decisions whether we loved Hank Nichols, we loved Joe Forty, did not like Larry Lembo, did not like Jerry Donahue at all, and we loved Art McDonald. So like we had our people we liked and we trusted, and we kind of left them alone, and then the other ones we'd get on if we thought that we were getting the short end of the stick. I graduated college and actually went to professional umpiring school in
Oh,
86 and
wow.
87 because that's what I wanted to do for a living.
Right.
And I came close in 87 to get hired, but I didn't get hired. And then I had to refocus. So I eventually got certified by the International Association of Approved Basketball Officials, IABO, here in New Jersey, and started on my basketball life,
Right. Right.
refereeing high school games, and then 97 actually got my first college contract, and that was for Division One in the Northeast Conference.
Mm.
The supervisor was also my chapter interpreter for high school and hired me into women's basketball, and then I've just been enjoying the ride ever since.
Right.
And it's
Right.
something that, when I see officials at camps, and everybody has this plan, like they want to be in Division One in X number of years, or they want to be in the A4, they want to do this, that, the other thing. And I guess something, somewhat similar to what Debbie was saying, Debbie and I don't share the same faith, but I've been enjoying the
Mhm.
ride, and if whatever has happened to me, I figured, God, I
Right.
do believe, I believe I am.
Well,
Debbie knows me quite well. I am, I am, I am, I may not be an Orthodox Jew, but I am observant.
right.
Um, and when it's a major holiday, like I tell the coordinators, I'm offline. Like, major Jewish holiday, I'm not online. I'm not fiddling with anything. I'm not on my computer. I'm not on my phone. It really
Mhm.
is something of a welcome break. But whatever I've accomplished, I figured, God has had something to do with it.
Yes.
Um, but I'm enjoying the ride. And I think when we enjoy the ride, we accomplish a lot more in whatever we're 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 involved with at the time, then because we're not putting pressure on ourselves to get to a certain place. I
Come
think
on,
many
man.
officials believe that if you don't make Division One, your officiating career has been a failure. And
Mhm.
and I was presenting at a camp before I became the rules editor, before I became a coordinator. My coordinators were running a camp, and they asked me to do a classroom, and of course I said yes. And I remember before we started one day, there was a camper who pulled me aside and said, if I don't get hired this year, I don't think I'm coming back to camp anymore. And
Mm,
and this was and by the way, this was a teaching and training camp.
right.
Did my two Division I supervisors hire out of this camp? They did, but it was all about teaching and training. And so I asked this person, I said, let me ask you a question. You have a full Division II, Division III schedule, and they said yes. I said, you work conference tournament games? They said yes. I said, you've worked NCAA Division II and Division III games? Yes. I said, think about all the things that you have done in your career. I said, and now think about the official who their biggest dream would be to like work a Division III basketball game, and they will never accomplish that. I said, you need to stop looking at your glass as being half empty because your
Come on.
glass is probably overflowing. And
Mm,
I always used to bring a water bottle into classrooms when I would teach, and I always made sure I drank half of it before I went into the room. And I'd always say to everybody in the room, including when it was a camp I was doing, and these are
right.
people who wanted me to hire them. Well, all right, well, I actually have a Diet Coke. It's not quite half full. But I'd say you need to stop looking at your career and looking at your refereeing as the bottle being half empty because it's still half full. You've accomplished a lot of things. And even if you don't get to where you think you ought to be, you're still going to do more in your officiating career than a lot of people ever will get to do. So we need to really look at things that way, and that Division II student athletes, Division III student athletes, even lower Division I, where my conference is, they
Hmm.
deserve the best officials that they can have. And you certainly can make an impact on people regardless of where you're refereeing. So
I agree. I agree
Yeah, I'd like to
100%.
piggyback that a little bit. We are seeing more and more people moving to younger officials moving to full-time officiating. And I kind of hate it for their communities, honestly, because,
Yes.
I think about the impact John's had in the classroom as a teacher. And he's still done basically a full-time job with the NCAA because it has become that.
Right.
And I'm thankful for his students that he didn't just leave it and go to officiating, and only do officiating. And I know I'm doing it because I'm able to do that, and it's giving me some more flexibility and some leverage to be able to do it better. But I see a lot of people under a lot of stress because in the case of the Women's Basketball Alliance, when the ACC took Stanford and Cal, I picked up regional round and Final Four officials from the West on my ACC roster, but then I
Right.
added them to the American and the Big East so that when we do bring them 2, 3 time zones over, then on the off day they can work a game and our teams benefit from this. Well, those games have to come from somewhere.
It's
So
true.
everyone's overall game count outside of the tier one regional round and above people, and floor officials say in the second round, suffered. And yet they were like, I've heard from so many people that go, okay, I'm doing this full time. Like, they've already put me on notice. I'm
Mm,
doing this full time now. And I just want to say, okay, good luck because, I don't know how you're doing it. That's your decision. That's a business decision that you have to make.
correct.
But I really, there's a lot of anxiety around that for the people that I know that just left a full-time job with benefits and they've got young kids running around their house. And I just want to say, I cannot, I can't be the sole supporter. There are a lot of people on these rosters, a lot of people that want opportunity. And I don't say anything generally because that's everyone's personal decision.
Right.
But I know to the older group, the veterans, the people that are on their way out, they're just shaking their head going, how in the world are these people doing it? And why are they
Right.
doing it this way? But also, we all understand that the younger group of officials, when I say younger, I'm talking about 10 years or less,
Hmm.
you do have more opportunity. The pay is better. There are a lot of other reasons maybe that people feel obligated to not be able to tell people no. But I think what hasn't changed is the dilemma that I was in as a coach, and that is my kids were gonna grow up without me.
Mm.
And if I stayed in gone as much as I was gone. And
Right.
now, they're all, 29 and older, and they don't need me. Everybody goes, how'd you travel that much when your kids were so little? I'm like, I didn't. I was home for 15 years, adjunct faculty teaching until I got a full-time job with NC State, on faculty. I can't even remember what year that was, 2004, I think.
Hmm.
I was just doing odd jobs, honestly, and tutoring students on the side to make ends meet, so that I could homeschool my kids, which I did for 8 years. So
Right.
when I say I didn't see it coming and I was just doing what I thought was the right thing at the time, and not winging it by any means, but then winging it, honestly.
Mm.
Um, but I just would caution people to ask themselves, where can you make an impact where you are? And is doing this gig full time really for you? Because I really think that there are a lot of people that can still referee and make a big impact, where
Yes.
they are. Now, I will also say that when I was the national coordinator and I had to call people to say, yeah, you're not going to be in the NCAA tournament this year, after they had either worked Final Fours 20 years before, or 15 years before, or had a significant impact on the game, it was
Hmm.
heartbreaking as well for me to hear what John said. Is they would go, well, I guess I just need to get out of basketball. And I'm like, wait, you're not working the NCAA Division I tournament for the first time in 20 years, and you just going to go straight to I don't need to worry free at all? Like,
No.
what,
I,
you really don't love it enough to continue to do it for other student athletes?
correct.
My career was in Division II and III as an official. It really
Hmm.
was. I had a
Hmm.
year or two in Division I, but it was not like I didn't do it long enough, but I also didn't start till I was 35.
Right.
I just
Well, sometimes
have other tools, I
right.
guess.
Sometimes our perspective can get a little skewed. And a lot of it is based upon something that we all have to manage to the best of our abilities. It's not just egos, but sometimes it's expectations. And managing those expectations can be difficult, especially when you become accustomed to something we start to feel that we have a right to. No,
Yeah.
we're blessed every day. I just had a conversation with a group of officials about a month ago. We're blessed every day to get an opportunity to get on that floor and do what we love to do. And every time you get that opportunity, there should be a deep appreciation for that. Because number one, it's not guaranteed. Number one. And number two, you never know whose life you're going to have an impact on, a positive impact on just by your presence alone. So we can't discard that. We cannot negate that. We have to realize the importance of that, of those interactions that we have with individuals. I can feel you, John. Go ahead, brother.
So, so my daughter will be 32 on New Year's Eve. And so when at the time when I first got into college officiating, at the time I was refereeing high school basketball, I was refereeing varsity high school soccer, umpiring high school baseball, and I was refereeing little kids like Pop Warner football.
Hmm.
Like like I was officiating all the time because at that time I was teaching in a Catholic high school in Jersey City, making $18,000 a year. And I had to Debbie's point, I had to do what I had to do to help support my family. Now, thankfully, my wife worked for the state of New Jersey. So like she carried our benefits, but
Right.
still, like I was out officiating everything I could. And I'll never forget my daughter was like maybe 7 or 8, and believe me, she was a pleasure as a child growing up. but there was something that like I had asked her to do, and she pretty much said, "Well, why do I have to listen to you? Because you're never here."
Mm. Wow.
And that was really it was really difficult to hear. And my wife said to me, she goes, you know, Mariah's of the age now that like she can kind of travel with you. So when you have like a if you have like a Division 1 game on a weekend and you're planning to, you know, if you're planning to stay over, take her with you.
Hmm.
So and it was really pretty cool because I'll never forget. When I officiated Division 1, I refereed in the Northeast Conference, the MAC with two A's, and the Ivy League.
Wow.
And so Brown University always used to have a tournament the first weekend in December, and I was the only official who went there for both games. And so what I would do is I would bring my daughter with me, and we would go up, and we would go right to Brown on Saturday, and then or sometimes we'd go up Friday, like after school, we'd drive up. I always found a hotel that had an indoor pool, and so she'd bring her bathing suit, and then I would do the game, and the longtime coach at Brown, Jean Marie Burr, what a wonderful woman. I introduced her to my daughter. Anytime I went to Brown, like at the handshake with the coaches, Jean Marie would say, "Is Mariah here? Did you bring Mariah? How is she doing?" Like always asked me about my daughter. Then
Wonderful.
Saturday night, I would take her to like Capitol Grill or Ruth's Chris for dinner. She'd go swimming. We'd do the game on Sunday, and then we would drive home. But I would take her whenever I could. I would take her to games so that we had that bond. Well, she started college in I got to do the math a little bit. She started college in the fall of 2012. She went to University of Rhode Island. So my coordinator who had the Northeast Conference and the Ivy League would always try to send me to like a Brown, to Harvard or like a Dartmouth or a Central. He'd always try to send me up that way, so it would give me an opportunity to see my daughter. And then when I became the rules editor, I came off the floor. Some things had happened where it started out as a temporary thing where I was now the Northeast and Ivy League supervisor. So whenever I went up that way, I got to see my daughter. And it was really good because especially like her first year in college, she's away from home for the first time. Aside from going to like, summer camp,
Right.
she was really away from home.
Right.
And she really appreciated like like my being up in the area, even if it was once a month, because she knew I'd take her out to dinner. She knew I would take her to Stop and Shop and get her, get food for her room. But it also helped to give her the ability to like vent and share things with me that she wanted to share. And you can't forget because when you look at how many people in officiating are divorced and how many people like don't have any contact with their kids, um, you know, it's finding the balance. And, it used to be that officiating was very regional, that the leagues were very regional. And now, think about what Debbie just told you all before. She's got two West Coast schools in the ACC. Now, I may be a social
Mm.
studies teacher, and geographically, I know that that's not exactly Atlantic, but now with the way the leagues are, it's just it for officials, there is just so much more travel for all of you because of how the conferences are set up now. And listen, even some Division 2 and Division 3 conferences are spread out like really, really
Really.
far. So for all of you, it's managing, how do you manage your time? But with my staff, we have our staff business meeting next Sunday. I just do it on Zoom. It's a lot easier. I have people from all over the place, and it's just easier to get everybody on Zoom. And what I tell them is, and they can the order of the first three things I let them figure out:
Right.
your family, your faith, and your job. all have to come before this. It just because if you put this before your family, you may not have one. If
Mhm.
you put this before your faith, somebody's probably not going to like that. The 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 higher being,
Right,
he or
right.
she or both,
Mhm.
will probably not like that. And your full-time job, like you don't want to mess around with that because that's probably where your health insurance is coming from. It's probably where your pension or your 401k is coming from. You know, those things all have to come in front of basketball. And as a supervisor, because I was a teacher when I refereed, I'm sensitive to like the people who work for me who are in education and are teachers. I don't send them to an 11 o'clock kiddie game without asking them first because it means they're taking a day off from work.
Right.
And I'm not going to be the person who jams them up with their job. So I try to be as sensitive as I can with all of those things because I remember what it was like for me.
Yes. Yes. I really appreciate you both for sharing. You both have already touched on, I'm sure, a number of the questions that a number of the officials were thinking or had in their heads to ask and inquire about. You know, of course, we've already rolled into it, which is great, and because the purpose of the day is to provide each one of these individuals with information, practical insight, some applicable knowledge, and maybe just a touch of wisdom that will help guide them, in the decision making, not just on the floor, but off the floor and in their everyday life as well. So let's go ahead, let's roll right into the first question someone may have. Nicole Brandon, she just texted me. She's helping put together a party. So I think she put her question in the chat. Let me check real quick. There it is. Yes. Her question is this. This is for you both. Do evaluations from past seasons play a role in assignments and or the hiring decision?
Yeah, I mean, you go stink it up for a whole year. We're not going to let you stink it up again. I mean, if I stink it up for a year, they're not going to want me to do it again. I mean, very few people like stink up a whole year, but
Right.
I think that I mean, I feel like I do sometimes. I go, gosh, I thought I did my best, but I probably could have done better in these other areas. And so when we sit down for my end of year review, I get to listen to all the things I should have done better. And then I
Hmm.
start over and try to do them better. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's it it's so practical to think of that. I think this whole job of as a supervisor and the decisions that we have so many different layers and so many different requirements and considerations and the travel, all the things, even with flat fees.
Right.
But I think, yeah, I mean, we take what we know and we make the best decisions we can going forward. And I think that, if people and we read the NCAA's reports on their evaluations because I can't get to everyone. I mean, I just look
Hmm.
in one of the leagues I saw between myself and my assistant, we saw in person 65 of the 90 people on the roster and were able to give feedback after every game.
Wow.
Well, for those 65, there's another 65 time two people that are on our roster that I'm not going to get to in person. And so where I'm getting my information is from the coaches' post-game reports, from the game graders that we have in one of the leagues, the observers that we have in three of our leagues, my staff, which is Judy Stroud with the Big South and the CAA, Brad McMillian with the MAC and the Ivy, and Christy Vetter with the A10. They're also out there watching games. But we don't have a budget in any of these leagues outside of the ACC where we actually can hire game graders for a bunch of games. We don't have the budget to see everybody. So based on what we see and what we know and the detailed evaluations that we get at camp, and the fact that I'm going to see everybody at camp, even if it's
Right.
for a half. We take all of that and make decisions about where to go the next year. Now, with someone, now I can really like someone and see some things that I like, and they have me ranked 7th. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not going
Right.
to get access to them, and that's just the way our NCAA seasons are. And then for the people that I really, their calendars are going to fill up before I can get to them, um, because of where they have their priorities. I also have a roster that I feel like I can manage, that I can give them games. And then I have to use what I know about them. And I'll tell you, one of the exercises, and we had Christy Vetta, who just came off the floor 2 years ago, and then Ashley Good, Tasha Smith. Those three, Tasha and Ashley, are still refereeing, but Christy is now off the floor and doing this job with me side by side as part of my team. Is they did a session, Christy and Ashley did at one of my camps last year or year before, about what I didn't know about the supervisor deal,
Mhm.
and all the questions I had as an official. And they got to go over all that stuff. And I thought it was really helpful to officials because they are either in it or just coming out of it,
Right.
to say, hey, this is how it really works on the backside, you know? And
Yes.
and one of the things that we do is, I'll go, okay, since you said it, this was Nicole's question.
Mhm.
We'd say, okay, Nicole or John, and why? Like
Right.
anytime we want to add somebody, and whose game, Nicole, yeah, John, afraid so. Uh, but anytime we have to make a decision, I'm like, okay, whose games are they getting? Because if somebody only had 5 games, are we cutting them down to 1 or none just to
Right.
give the 5 to this other person? And why? What do they have that we don't already have? And our charge for our rosters is to build a better roster. And I went to 7 of the 8 spring meetings in person. And by the time May is over, like referees are like, oh, hope you're enjoying your off season. And we're like, what off season? Because we went right from conference tournaments where you already feel really banged up, right into spring meeting prep, which are like 8-page reports full of data, full of all the things we think they might ask. And then we get in these rooms and we just like on a firing squad. And then we go into
Mm.
the AD meeting and they're like, okay, you want us to give you raises, or we're going to get a different pool of people?
Mm.
And I'm like, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter who I give you, you're not going to like them anyway, and then
Right.
they're going, well, we might want to find somebody else for this league. And I'm like, go ahead. So it's coming from all these different directions. And then it's coming from officials, all the different balls that we're juggling. Um, but part of that is being able to defend the decision for who we have on the roster. Like at the end of season review survey that I've sent, I've got 11 years worth of data that shows
Mhm.
about how many games our rostered officials have worked, for all these different seasons, what their postseason looks like, which is awesome because I didn't even know some of this stuff till I read it on the survey.
Right.
And where did that postseason take them, and the opportunities that they have. And we take all of that, and then I look at the scores or the comments from from coaches and from observers and even from other staff at camp, and we make those decisions. And we look at game counts, and I actually go so far as to look at, how many of my game counts are going across the board. How many are going to women? How many are going to guys? How many are going
Mhm.
to people of color? How many people, just to check myself to make sure that
Right.
I don't have some kind of slant. But
Mm.
at the end, I'm going to put the best people on the floor. And it's going to be that, okay, if it's 50-50, John or Nicole, then John's already got 3 games, I need to
Right.
go with Nicole right here because also I don't think his travel is going to allow him to get here. Or maybe Nicole is so much better than John, but she can't get to that game because it's a noon tip. And
Right.
it's a drive for him, it's a fly for her. So I know that's a really long answer, and I've kind of just like dipped my toe in a lot of things that have an impact on that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But with the game fees the way they are and continuing to get higher, um, there's a whole another subset of questions coming from ADs with regard to assignments and quality of crews and that sort of thing as well, that we're having to answer. Like, okay, John worked a Final Four, 20 years ago. Why is he still a tier one? Because he hadn't been back to the NCAA tournament in the last 10 years.
Right.
We're having to answer that question because the difference between a tier one check and a tier two check is significant, or tier two and tier three.
Okay. Right. Right.
So I think, like I said, I'm like dipping my toe in all these different areas that touch assigning. But yes, we consider what people have done, and I'll look and go, okay, these people work 6 Division I tournaments and 3 championships. What am I
Mhm.
doing with them? Well, nothing, because they have me ranked 7th.
Right.
And I'm
And
like, hey, I'm so happy for your success, but you get 0 games over here because I can't wait to see if you're going to have any openings, because Patty's over there trying to push all 20 leagues out,
right.
and
Right.
I'd love to be ranked seventh.
what's that?
I'd
You'd love
love
to
to
be
be
ranked 7th.
ranked as high as seventh with somebody.
Oh yeah.
Although, actually, when I'm ranked seventh, that's because they only work 7 leagues. So I guess that's how it
Hey,
works for me.
yeah.
Right. Right. Well, you know what,
So I
David?
think it's a long answer. I don't know. I hope somewhere in there it
Hmm.
I touched on, and we make mistakes.
Yes.
I look back and I go, oh my gosh, like that person's way better than I remembered.
Hmm.
And they actually are better than 3 people I already have on my roster. So we'll make a note and go, all right, just remember next year, this person
Right.
has not only on the floor, but off the floor. They were late with this, they were late with that. They showed open, they weren't open. They were, you know what? It's too much trouble. They are too much trouble. We are, there are these other people that are chomping at the bit. I think
Hmm.
I've heard good things, and I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and call John, uh, Tony Brothers, Lisa, and Patty, and I talk multiple times a week. Um, and even some of the coaches, because they used to be my coaches. Now they're in another league.
Right.
What's your experience with this person?
Right. You know what, Deb, I think your answer was great, and you're right. It touched on a number of different areas, but it was spot on. And the thing, what the biggest thing was, I think there are so many elements that go into both of your responsibilities that as officials may not be acutely aware of. There's so many things, so many factors, there's so many responsibilities, there's so many people that you're having to either work with or answer to that others aren't even aware of. So yeah, there are multiple factors that go into that. So no, your question was spot on. Could either one of you, would you mind explaining to those who might not be quite as adept at or have questions about the priority list? Can you just give them a brief synopsis of really what is that tool for?
I'll start off with the history, and then John, you can do whatever you want with it. But I can remember when I was the national coordinator, and I was hearing, you know, Bill Stokes, who had the SEC at the time, Barbara Jacobs with the Big East. That was before the American. Um, and Patty, obviously, with the 10 and the 12. Those 3 would sit around. Bernie McGlade was at the ACC, and they would, at the fall supervisors meeting, they would come in a day before, and they would sit at a table and say, all right, let's take D Cantner. Okay. And so they would go around the table and everybody would
Mm,
take D for whatever date, I want her opening day. Then the next person's turn, December 3rd, the next person, January 4th, the next person, whatever. And they'd go around until D's dates, they were done taking all the D they wanted, right? So
Right.
then they'd start with whoever the next person was, and they would go around the table. And they would do this with an elite group of officials that they all shared. And that was before things were a flat fee. So, there was some sort of regionalization for a large number of officials, but this little group right here got to go wherever, and they would share, they would do their sharing. And then that moved to, as that group got deeper, into officials ranking 1 and 2. Who would they want? Because sometimes there was $1,000 difference between this chair and that chair. And D
Right.
had no, AD, I'm just using D as an example, would
Mhm.
have no say in this. So if they took her on this date, and then the next chair took her, and then the next chair took her, these fees were all over the map and how much they covered for travel, right?
Right. Right.
So as we moved out of that into, oh, just tell us who your 1 and 2 is. So then maybe we'll work together, and then people can get what's left, the rest of them. And that we kind of eased into that. It was probably the early to maybe 2010, 12, 14, 15-ish, maybe 10 years,
Right.
10 plus years ago. Well, now everybody's going to flat fee, and they don't care where people are coming from and going to, because nobody's really starting at home.
Right.
Then it became, okay, well, you're controlling, the 3 of you or the 4 of you are controlling what I make. I want to control what I make. I don't want to
Mm.
miss a day of, and I'm just making this up. This is
Right.
nothing D said or another, but they were like, you know what? I only want to work for the leagues that pay the most. So while there might be 3 or 4 chairs at this table, I only want to really work for these 2 or these 3. So
Right.
let's just do more than 2 priorities. And then we'll just go in order. Number 1 and number 2 still split you in half. In NCAA women, this has nothing to do with men, because what the men do is say, I'm taking these 30 people. They are primary to me. They are secondary to this other league. Primary and secondary will work some of this out, but primary will be primary. Secondary will get whatever secondary. And then once we get done with you, you can go get whatever you can get somewhere else, as long as it's a group I get along with.
Mhm. That's real.
So then the other, and
That's
Division
real.
2 and 3
Yes.
people right now today probably are our best examples of officials getting torn apart limb by limb,
Mm.
because there is no priority system. So people start jumping on people in May and June and getting them to hold dates so that no one else can have them. And no one can say anything, no one can do anything. And I think the biggest threat to our pipeline is not that we don't have a deep pool of people that want to officiate, is that they get torn literally limb from limb by a system that keeps them in the middle.
Right. Correct.
And they're at the mercy of who's fighting with each other and who's not fighting with each other, and who works together and who doesn't work together when it comes to no priority system. Because I don't want to make you mad, because you have most of the games closest to my house, and I still have a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't like the way you do business. I would rather go work for this person who treats people well and pays just a little more. But I also need to supplement. They can't afford sole custody. So I need to keep this person happy too. And they're at each other. I see it every year.
Right.
I hear the stories from officials and from supervisors. And that's what it looks like to not have a priority system, unless you only work for one person.
Right.
But nowadays, in our current situation, and since for 12 years, I've just sent it out and said, list 1 through 8, your preferences, because no one can come back to me and say, oh, you got me sideways with Lisa or Patty or John or Mike or Tony or, whoever. No, I'm going to go in the order that you give me, and that's your decision. And I respect it. For whatever reason you want to put it in that order, go ahead, because I'm the one over here saying close dates out for your kids.
Right.
So the
Right.
fact is, you live in Omaha, you know, I don't have enough Omaha for everybody on the Big East roster, you
Right.
know? So I'm not going to like try to tear you apart. If you want to put us fifth, put us fifth, because there's enough games right where you live that belong to someone else, to Violet or Patty. Those people should be your number one, honestly. Don't be foolish and take your own legs out.
Mm.
I've spent more time talking people out of moving us up than talking them into moving us up, because they need to see plays and I can't afford sole custody. So that's the priority ranking life for me. And I just about 2 hours ago pushed the link out to everyone in our alliance in all 8
Hmm.
leagues. And I'll get it in Excel and I'll sort it. Who's got one of our leagues number one? And if they work for other people, we'll hurry up and try to assign them as soon as we get schedules, and then number two, or split them with number two and try to follow the rules
Right. Right.
that are not written anywhere, by the way. But
No, wisely they're not. Um, so I'll piggyback a little because not only do I have a Division 1 conference, but I have a Division 2 conference, and I have 3 Division 3 conferences. And yes,
Hmm.
I pushed out D2 and D3 in June. If I don't push them out in June, and this is my from my perspective, you know, as you heard earlier, I have a full-time job.
Right.
So doing these assignments after school has started, it's hard enough for me to do my one Division 1 conference after school has started. So trying to do all of this at the front end is extremely difficult. Now, so in doing this, like if people want to close dates for other coordinators, that's fine. Several years ago, I asked the people who worked for me, and I did it for Division 2. I said, if you work for other Division 2 supervisors and you want them to have first shot at you, just tell me where I am in the pecking order. And then even if I do these assignments, even toward the end of the summer, if they push out their initial assignments and they hit on one of my dates because you have them ranked higher than me, I will take the game back. The problem is some of my colleagues did not like the fact that I was going to work this way.
Hmm.
And, if even though I said to them, I said, listen, if they put you first, I said, and you give them a game on a date that I have them on, I said, I'll replace them. Just like I told all of you right now.
Right.
So like I've done it earlier simply because in terms of my trying to manage my time, like I have to. But
Right.
my staff, everybody who works, I have about 260 officials who work for me, all told, across the 5 conferences. I told them, listen, if you work Division 3 for me, I said, if you get a Division 1 game, Division 2 game, I said, I take my game back. That's not a big deal. When everybody else starts releasing initial assignments, then fine. I will happily take the game back. If you get your child's school calendar and you've got to turn games back because of concerts or sporting events or parent teacher night, give me the game back.
Right.
I will happily take it back and replace you because based on what I told you all earlier, family's got to come before basketball. So you need to do that. When I ask my Division 1 people for their priority list, it's really very easy for me knowing where I am. I just
Right.
ask them, tell me here are the things I need to know. If I'm the only person that you work for in Division 1, tell me that. If you work for other people and I'm your number one, tell me I'm your number one. But what I really want to know is tell me who I am ahead of
Right.
so that I know that. Now, listen, the reality is if let's say let's say I'm just going to pick somebody on the call. So Faye, because I see her box right there, right on the screen. So
Right.
let's say Faye works for me in the Northeast Conference and she works for Debbie in the MAC. And let's say she has me first. I assign after everybody else has pushed their games out. I just wait until the end. Now, if I want to give Faye a game. If I see she has a MAC game, I'm not going to assign over the top.
Right.
Why would I want to replace a Division 1 game with another Division 1 game? Like, I want you to grow your schedule. Now, the nice thing about my waiting is, if I can swing somebody and I see somebody has Debbie, when does the ACC play? What do you guys play? Like Friday,
Thursday,
Sunday, Thursday?
Sunday.
Thursday, Sunday. So okay. So Debbie Williamson has a game at Boston College on Sunday. She's open on Saturday. I have Stonehill College, like less than an hour away from Boston. She's already going to have to be there anyway for Sunday. Let me put her in here on a nice little swing. So I can do that. I think what's making this even harder is it has nothing to do with the coordinators. It really doesn't. It has to do with the conferences seem to be getting the coordinators the schedules later and later and later, which puts the coordinators in a bind because now they're all trying to work out. They have all of these people with all of these leagues and all of these priority lists, and everybody's trying to get this done when in some cases there are coordinators who are not getting schedules until mid to late September. Like we have had, and Debbie, if I'm lying,
Wow.
Debbie, call me out. What some of us what we've done is like we'll just push out the exhibitions and the scrimmages just so that our schools know people are coming, and then we go back and work on the regular season because let's at least get something off our plate before we get to the games that count. And it's becoming more frustrating for us. And of course the trickle down is you all want to know where you're going. Well, if we don't have a schedule, we can't do anything.
Well, and
So
I say this all the time, like I can't finish if I can't start.
Correct.
And I can't start without the schedule. Now, I've had the ACC conference schedule for a week and a half, but the 10 and the 12 aren't ready. So Lisa and I are sitting on our schedules,
Mm-hmm.
waiting. And as far as priority for the ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, we look at all the people that we share that an official would work for 2 or more of us. And then
Right.
we send a priority ranking link out to just that group, because then it exports into Excel with a much smaller group. And then we can sort alphabetically or by, I always go to who has me number 1 and I sort that way. And then I look at who else is behind me. Somebody will have maybe me, Lisa, me, Patty, or, me, Patty,
Mm-hmm.
Patty, 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 Lisa, me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the thing about it is so 1 and 2 share you equally. We're going to always start with our top tier people and assign them first. So even if, let's say I've got a top tier person that doesn't they work for the ACC and the Big East, let's just say. So I'm sharing them with me. I am going to be faithful as best I can to split that person in half because the Big East plays Wednesday, Saturday.
Right.
And I'm looking at the game count of how many games they've had every year for the last 10 years and going, what do I need to do? Do I need to give them the same? Do I need to give them more? Do I need to give them less? And how many games do I have? If everybody's going to an island over November, I don't have really much non-conference, which is where our tier 3s and 4s get a lot of in the harder leagues, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of their games. But the other thing too is we'll do our top tier and we'll push the A4 out and then everybody closes them out. And now I go back and go, okay, let me rank who has me second or third or whatever. And I'll go in order, but I'm going in order by rank, but in order by tier. And our tiers are pretty much like tier ones are generally significant NCAA tournament experience. And now these are very general. Significant NCAA tournament experience, significant Division I conference tournament experience, because the NCAA isn't the end all be all. They work the WBIT, they work the NIT. Like, what is their, who else thinks they're good enough to put their postseason in their hands?
Right. Right.
And when I look at my spreadsheet that has like 20 columns, I can actually back up. And when I sort by tier, it really lines out where it's kind of got this curve to it that by the time I get to tier 4, these are people who aren't working Division I tournaments at all. And if you look at who they are, they really haven't been doing this very long in the grand scheme of things. But we'll take care of tier 1. We'll take care of tier 2. These at tier 2 are going to be in the A4 at least, you know, they consistently in the NCAA tournament. They're working maybe regional rounds. Regional round in the floor might be a tier 1. And we're going to knock all these people out wherever they have us. But I know in the ACC, I've dropped more than 15 people who had me for, because we're going to push out at the same time.
Right.
And so I can call Lisa and say, okay, I'm number 4 or 5 for John. And he's got SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and then the ACC. Can y'all give me his dates? Well, they took every Thursday, Sunday.
Right.
He has no Sunday, Thursdays. Now he's going to call me and complain because he was open to all non-conference. And I'm like, I'm not giving you those non-conference game. I'm going to give them to somebody who has me 1 or 2 and they're tier 3 and 4 or a tier 2 building, because they're not going to be working late in conference for me because I already have these other people with more experience. But I ended up dropping them because then they'd get to the NCAA tournament and they would appear to be an ACC official, and the NCAA would put them on an ACC team. And they go, I've never seen any of these people. And they were like, well, no, John's an ACC official. Yeah, with 0 games.
Right. Right. But I'm seeing them all year.
I wrote so many emails. I love you. I think you do a great job. In fact, I don't think Kevin Pethel would mind me saying this, but he called when he made the Final Four and he goes, I just want to thank you for everything you've done to get me to the Final Four. I'm like, Kevin, I haven't given you a game in years because you know, he goes, no, before that. And he's right. Before that, when he was in the Big East, you know, I have such great respect for the guy, but I'm like, Kevin, I can't carry, you have no availability, you know? But when you want to change your priority and put me higher where I can get to you, man, I would love to have you because I mean, just a great guy anyway. So the best I can do for him is try to send him to an island or something. But that is in essence what the priority system, the reality of it, of what it looks like. And then I have people say, man, I've been ranking you 1 and 2 all these years. And I'm going, yeah, but do you know how many people are better than you? Like have significant NCAA conference, Division I conference, like that combination. I keep saying it, but like significant postseason experience over the last 5 years. How many championships? Like there's a column literally on my spreadsheet that when I look at my tier 1s and 2s, it will say 4, 5, 6 Division I tournaments -3 championships, 4 championships. And then it kind of dwindles as I go down. But our coaches will say, why isn't so-and-so on my games? I see them on TV on everybody else's games.
Right.
And I have to answer those questions. And some of them is, you know, I have had some integrity issues with these people.
Right.
They're not working for me.
And that's real. That's honest.
In this business,
come on. Yes.
Lying is serious.
Come on. You have
there are
to be
a lot of
true.
different ways people lie. Not telling the whole truth is a lie.
Yes. Yes. You have to
A
be
half
honest.
truth is a lie.
Thank you.
And if I can't trust you, now I will say that there are people on my roster who get games, and I can't say that I trust them as much as I would like to trust them. And there are people
Mhm.
that just toe a line that's, oh, it's just Debbie's opinion. But, you know, I know I know what I can do, and what I just cannot do.
Right, 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 exactly. That right there, folks, that's real talk. And I really appreciate that because that is honestly, I'll try to convince everyone. The only thing you have to rely on are your own standards, your standards, and your character. Your character will take you places your ability you can't touch. So be true, be a good person, be true to who you are, and it would definitely take you far. Nicole just posted that she really appreciate Debbie being honest with all of us. I mean, that's just real talk. Tanner Gray, do you have a question for either one of our guests?
Yeah, Tanner.
I do. You kind of answered it. It it could go actually for both since you guys were both coordinators of officials. What distinguishes an official who consistently receives higher tier assignments from one who remains in the lower tiers? Maybe not the tiers of, the pay tiers, just in general, the level of the assignment.
Let me go first, Debbie, because
Sure.
my answer is really I have no tiers. My conference, like everybody gets the same thing.
Well, but
So
some games are better than others, so maybe that's where he's
some
going.
games are better, and listen, and so, a lot of it is availability. Like, you know, so similar to what Debbie does, I divide my staff into four quadrants. Now, ultimately, my job is to supply the Northeast Conference and the others with the best available officials on on any given date. And unfortunately, what has happened is, to give you a little history, when I refereed in the Northeast Conference, our conference play dates were Saturday, Monday. So Saturdays are Saturdays. We all know what Saturdays are like.
Yeah.
Mondays, nobody really played. Nobody. So, and even when I started as the supervisor, um, we were Saturday, Monday. And so Mondays, I had people like Kevin Pethel and because I had schools nearby that it was like a home game for a lot of them. Well, then a couple of the coaches wanted to have their Sundays off. So then we went to Thursday, Saturday, and initially I didn't think that was going to be a problem because nobody was really the only Thursday, Saturday was way up above my pay grade. So I didn't think it was going to be an issue. Well, then the America East went to Thursday, Saturday, and the MAC went to Thursday, Saturday on the women's side. So then I found myself in the position of, wow, now I'm competing because I know I'm going to be lower priority than those leagues because they pay more. I was asked, in fact, this past March at our conference championship game, my administrator asked me what would be the best play dates for us. And it was actually a conversation that originated with the men. And I said, if we went to Friday, Sunday, I could have almost anybody I wanted
On
if we
Friday.
played Friday, Sunday.
Right.
And so when I got my schedule a month and a half ago, sure enough, every single play date is Thursday, Saturday. The ADs did not want to change. So I just will go about it. But like I have people who are on my roster who I have them because I don't know, what are they going to get in the Ivy? What are they going to get in the MAC or the A10 or the Horizon? Or I don't know what they're going to get. And so sometimes I'll see them at camp and they'll say to me, like, what, how could like I didn't get anything? I said, well, when I got through all the people, and I'm honest about it,
Mhm.
who are they have the NCAA tournament experience, they have conference tournament experience, like they I don't want to say better because that's not the right word, and that's not a fair word,
Right.
but the coaches accept them more because of the experiences that they've had and that they get good ratings. I have a very small observer budget, but I still have games being observed. I went to 100 games last year myself. I'm like, your open dates don't coincide with the dates that I was trying to give you. And so that's part of this as well. That Tanner, I would love to use you, but every Thursday, Saturday in January, February, you're already at a game. What do I do?
Right.
Because
Well,
I'm not calling Debbie to ask to give you up because that's not right.
well, and I would if it meant Tanner could make more money. Like if John said, listen, I see on Tanner's close dates that he has a game in, I don't know, San Antonio. And I've already got him up here for something else. Is there any way, he could stay here, stay another night, and he's a drive? And I'd say, yeah, man, I got more people than I need right now in that can go to San Antonio, which is rarely the case. It's rarely the case on any games that are the outer rim. When we look at what is the outer rim of Miami, Dartmouth, even Boston, all the way across to Notre Dame, Omaha. I mentioned Omaha. Then you got Stanford, Cal, and then you come back down to San Antonio, Houston, New Orleans, and then there's Memphis stuck right there in the middle of it. But I think there are some people that, see how to say this. I think because I didn't work a big Division I schedule, I can say this. Like I used to look at people and go, I know I'm better than that person. I know I'm better than that person. And I remember later having a relationship with Bill Stokes where I felt comfortable enough saying, you picked up her in the SEC and you didn't pick up me? Like you're telling me I'm better than her and you're putting me in the championship of your D2 stuff and you're not doing that for her. And he goes, do you live in Arkansas? I was like, no. He goes, you live in Arkansas? You're in the SEC. You don't live in Arkansas. And I was like, fine with me. I ain't going to Arkansas. But there are a lot of different reasons that I think just weigh. It's like you have all these scales and you go this or that one, this one or that one, this one or that one, and I'll tell you, camp is real. And yes, camp is for people to go and get all this experience and get the feedback and all that. But when I'm watching people make the same mistakes and over and over and over, and then I go, why am I going to go give them a game when the coach just ran out to half court and took all of his clothes off and then ran back to the gym and no one did anything? Like, I'm really going to put this person on one of my games? Because
No.
I have like 5 coaches that come to my mind right away that would do that. And I don't want to be on ESPN. So I don't want my league's name, the brand. We are charged with protecting the brand. So there's that. But then there is, when I go, okay, I have so many people and so many people getting significantly better when I do see them thinking, and other people are giving them opportunities, which gives them those Division I tournaments that I'm talking about.
Right.
And maybe these people aren't getting tournaments, but I think they're better than the people who do. Like, in the end of the day, I'm making a decision based on what I'm seeing, even if the only time I'm seeing it is at camp.
Right.
Because I have a pretty good record of being able to look at somebody for my needs only. I don't look at them for John. I don't look at them for anybody else, but for my needs to be able to say, I know the people I have. And I think, and that's the thing when I go all the rules all the time, regardless of time or score, like when I see people just flat out getting play after play after play, which is also why we do men's basketball in the summer, play after play and shutting coaches down and catching clock mistakes and taking care of the table, being very confident, not, I'm going, wow, I see a level of maturity there that's not going to allow them to be chewed up and spit out.
Right.
And they're physically fit, they're getting to the baseline, they're doing all these things. And there are a lot of people that can do that part, you know? There really are more people now than there have ever been in Division One, and I see it summer after summer. I submit we have the fittest people. When I look out at a fall meeting, I'm looking at the most fit rosters we've ever had because people are taking ownership to control what they can control.
Right.
And that's why when you do come to camp and you do get in front of supervisors, and this isn't like I'm not talking to Tanner, I'm just as a group. I am, no, it's a baseline, John. Sorry. It's going to always be a baseline. It can be the inline in the rule book, but I play for Hall of Fame coaches. They call it baseline. That's the basketball beauty. But I think that that's the thing about camp is like it's a job interview. And because sometimes that's the only time that we can see y'all, that you got to kill it. I remember going to Patty's camp when I was refereeing. I was trying to get in a Conference USA or anything she had. And I said to her, like y'all say to me, what do you got for me? She goes, well, you're just not very good. I was like, well, dang, like, it's like when I started writing my dissertation, my chair of my committee goes, you know, you don't write very well. And I had like, I'm an English minor. I had just knocked all my writing stuff out of the water, but in his opinion, I wasn't very good. And I wasn't good at technical writing. And I wasn't apparently good enough to do what Patty needed to do. And I said, well, okay, well, then what do I need to do? Because I want to say that the biological clock is ticking here, you know?
Right.
And she goes, nail every flipping play. Nail every flipping play. And I thought, I can do that.
There it is.
And then I had somebody tell me the same camp. I said, what am I missing? And this is a quote. You need to be a bitch. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, well, like how do I do this?
Are the
And he goes, you're
degrees?
just so nice out there, you know? And I was like, okay, I can not be nice all the time. I surely struggled with that one. And it was Brian Interline, oddly enough. And so years later, when he's working for me, I said, you know, Brian, you told me that I needed to do a better job of being a bitch. How am I doing? He goes, great, great. You can back off now. Which is funny now. But so I go to camp the next summer at Patty's camp and she picks me up and was very complimentary of the progress I made. But I spent my 85 games that year at trip by trip by
Yes.
trip, nailing
Yes.
every friggin' play I could nail and taking it to the table with confidence and taking care of the game and not being concerned with impressing other people. Just working the game, working basketball, working. And I'd work 80 games in the summer, a minimum, and 80 plus during the year. And I did that for 3 years straight. I was barely breaking even, honestly.
Right.
But anyway, Tanner, I don't know if that answers your question. I covered a lot of stuff, but it's highly competitive. And I think that while I'll tell people not to try to push themselves more, and I see this at camp where they go, oh, I got to make the impression. Well, guess where your impression, or you will, for one thing.
Right.
But the other thing too is if you're worried about the game of basketball, you're going to make sure your crew's on board. You're going to make sure all of y'all are on the same page. You're not going to be tiptoeing around other people, this or that, because that game needs whatever you have. And you're going to be pushing your best the whole time. And then I leave camp and go, oh, like, I think that person needs a little bit more responsibility because what he just caught, none of those Division I people on his crew caught.
Right.
No one did. And I go back and read the camp evals and they're going, this guy is really clicking on all, or this woman is really clicking on all cylinders. There was like all these good things or not, because I tell our staff, you have to put detailed notes. But I know that hasn't changed. You know, that was 5 years ago when
Mhm.
I'm at camp and Patty's telling me this. And Patty hadn't changed either. So she would probably
Oh,
give the
good.
same advice she gave to me, to you. But I think too, I have to say, in all honesty, is there are some times when I'm looking at people going this one or that one, this one or that one, because it's that close. And then we go, okay, this one. Now this one or that one, this one or that one. Then you go, okay, that one's still holding. Let's go to the next one. This one, that one, this one,
Mhm.
that one. And then go to the next round, and then it becomes the other one. So somebody may have gone through three, may have gone further than they've ever gone, but then there is somebody who in my opinion, at that time is a little better,
Right.
or is better. But you can't make us wonder what you're going to do.
That's true. That is very true. And you're right. You have to nail it consistently.
Every flipping time.
That's
And
right.
we make mistakes, but there's a whole nother way to nail that.
Yes.
You
It's
go
not the
over there and you
mistake.
communicate, and you give yourself up, and then you make up for it, not make up call, but you make up for it with, I'm not going to let that happen to me again.
Correct.
And then all of a
Correct.
sudden people look at you and go, man, I want that guy on or that woman on my team,
Correct.
because they're going to take care of this crew in this game, and they're not going to let anything happen to us.
Correct. Wow. I love it. I love it. Great response, both of you. Great response. I really appreciate that. Let's say let's pick on Mitchell Gomez real quick. Mitchell, do you have a question for us?
I was going to say the Oklahoma guys are getting hit, but then Mitch bailed on Oklahoma, I heard.
I did?
Yeah, didn't you go to no, yeah, didn't you move to Houston?
No, ma'am.
Who
No.
was that?
That was Matt Krause.
Yeah, that other guy, Kansas.
Yeah.
Whole different
Yeah.
thing. Oklahoma and Kansas. Whole
My
different
bad. Yeah, you're right.
thing. So my question is different than really anything basketball related. I teach US history, and I have been for 6 years, and I love it. And you guys were both in the classroom, both officials, and so what elements of officiating did you bring into the classroom to make yourselves a better educator?
John, you do this every day. I taught sports psych, so it was easy. I had my whole career was an example. John, you might have to unmute, but I taught sport man. I was in charge of the coaching minor at NC State. So everything, behavior, misconduct, the organization of sport, like the travel piece, all the things. I wish I would. I don't really want to go back and teach right now, but if I did, I would have better examples.
And I'm on the backside of the mountain, just biding my time until I'm planning to retire in 3 years, but I could move that up. We'll see how this year goes, because I'm in. Wayne and I were talking before everybody jumped on, and my district, after 18 years, shut down the program that I worked in. So now I'm in the high school itself, teaching in a way that I have not taught in 25 years, and teaching subjects where my knowledge of the material, I'm probably only going to be about a day ahead of the kids because of how I used to have to do things. Um, I think in terms of what I used to do as an official, I think the ability to listen, like
Mm.
you I listen to my kids, and I listen. Granted, we've only had classes for 2 days, because New Jersey, we start after Labor Day. So while some of you, if you're in education, you've been back for a couple of weeks, not me. So I listen to my kids. I treat them fairly, but I don't treat them equally. And that does kind of rub against what we do as officials to some degree. Um, and I am very, Debbie said it earlier, like, all the rules all the time, regardless of time and score and all those, and I'm no different, because I truly believe that the only way we will get to that utopic vision of basketball officiating is if everybody would just enforce the rules, like we would get there, we would get as close as we possibly could, because as you all know, the rules have, what is incidental and what is illegal. And that that really is like our gray. So, you know, because of that gray, that little bit of gray, um, I have that little bit of gray in the classroom. So, I do, just like you can't treat all coaches with the same like broad brush. They are individuals, just like your students in the classroom are. So like they go hand in hand. It's not so much what do I take from officiating, it's a lot of it is more what do I take from the classroom, that I would do I would do when I was officiating whatever sport I was working that day. Uh, so I'm not so sure, it's very fluid. It kind of goes back and forth.
I think too, I think
Yes.
there's more of a transfer with parenting, and teaching is parenting, right, Mitch? Like, but I saw a great deal of transfer with parenting when I was refereeing. The most my kids were at school or homeschooled. So, I can remember saying to them, listen, I get paid to penalize people. I don't mind penalizing you for free. So like, and it was real, like to this day. I think part of the lesson being that these are the rules.
Mhm.
And while there is going to be some gray, and John is right, that there are some other situations, or most situations have some boundaries. And my boys love history. They've taught me more about history than I've ever learned in the classroom. But that to me is part of what society is as well. There are some laws
Mhm.
and there are some boundaries. And one thing about calling all the rules all the time is you expose the rule. And that's what I just said for the last 15 years with the contact on the BHD. If you don't like it, call it, enforce it. Let it make everybody upset enough to want to change it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we keep dancing around what people are uncomfortable with, and then we never just go right through it and get something done. So I think as far as lessons in officiating, I think like John said, it's how we treat people, but it's also the rules that govern what we are called to do. And John said it, I said it, and we have a job to do. You have a different job to do. And there are things asked of us. I don't get to make all the decisions. Like, I think people think that I make all these decisions. We sent every one of our rosters to our direct report at the conference, and they have an opinion on who we're dropping and who we're adding and why, and whether we should and whether we shouldn't.
Mhm.
And that makes some people uncomfortable. I'm fine with it. Because then when people come back yan about stuff, I can say, we all agreed. And here was the rationale, and the rationale hasn't changed. But, we have an obligation to put the best people on the floor in every one of these games. Like, I am not doing people favors. I didn't even pick up my own sister. And I would have
Wow.
loved to have been given her games. And
Right.
the kid could referee. I watched her at multiple state championships, state tournaments. I never worked a state championship, never worked a state tournament. She was way better than I was on the floor, and I would love to have had her. But I didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. There were other college supervisors that could have picked her up, and did pick her up, and she could work for them. Now, if it meant that she was never going to grow in the game, I would have preferred to just resign from the league. Let somebody else take the league and hire her,
Right.
where my name's not on it, because it
Right.
wouldn't have served her well to walk in every locker room and people wonder if she was going to come back and tell me what they said. Like, there's a whole big thing, right?
Correct.
But like my job's not to do favors for people. I give people games that I don't necessarily like. So I don't like giving them to you because I like you. I'm giving them to you because you actually get a lot of plays right.
Mhm.
And all the other things that I have to do for that one game, you fit. Then there are
Yeah,
other
yeah.
people that I like a lot that I want to, if I let myself, I would give them games because I like them. And I say to my team so many times, are you picking this person up because you like them? Well, I do like them. I said, yeah, but like they're not as good as the bottom 10. And if our job is to take the bottom of the roster and raise it every year, that person's not doing it. You're going to
Right.
have to go put them in one of your D2 leagues or let somebody else hire them and then go hang out with them if you want somewhere else. But that's not why you're hired or you get games. And then I hear people go, oh, well, so, Joe Vasili's one of your guys. Dang straight, he's one of my guys. You know
Right.
why? Because the guy can flat referee and he could referee before I ever met him.
Yep.
And everything I've asked him to change and work on, which is a couple things every year, he's done it to better position him and the rest of our roster because it helps us for us to get them as, do whatever we can so that they are positioned to go as far as they can go. But we have a job to do. I have a responsibility, and God has given me such a clear vision for the difference between what my job is and what I might want to do because maybe I like somebody or not do because I don't like them. Like that has it now. Now I'm going to say it, it's going to be a problem, but knock on wood, like, but that is my commitment is to do my job. And when I look at my roster compared to 10 years ago or 5 years ago, when I look at the assignments at the end of every year, we sort all of these assignments and break down what we did and everybody scores. And I go, dang, we are so much better than we were.
Good. That is good.
Now,
Now,
I
do you
pissed
have a
a bunch
follow-up
of
to
people
that?
off in the meantime, like I made all these people mad, but we're better. I'm like, that was my job. My job wasn't to keep them happy.
That's right.
Since Debbie mentioned my good friend, Mr. Vasili, so I was fortunate enough to referee with Joe when I worked. And very first time I met Joe Vasili was the late 90s. We were working a Division 3. Back then it was two-person. We were working a Division 3 game at a school a school I now assign in the Bronx in New York City. And I had never met him before that day. And the only thing I kept thinking when that game was over was he's not going to be in this league very long. And and so, when you talk about, doing things the right way and working hard and uh, you know, not always saying what your brain is thinking and having that filter and being the true professional, like his
Yeah.
pictures in the dictionary when it comes to that. And and so everything that what Debbie said before is absolutely true for me. Like when I go to a camp, if I see somebody that I think could do a really good job for me, then I always go and talk to them. I always have a conversation with them, and I kind of want to know what makes them tick. I want to know, like, what do they do for a living? Because especially if they don't live in my neck of the woods, you know, I may think somebody would be a great addition, but if their job doesn't allow them, it goes back to what I said earlier. If they're going to be having to spend that kind of time away from their family and take off, like use vacation days or personal days to leave their job so they can go like referee for $1,300, at Fairleigh Dickinson in Teaneck, New Jersey. Like,
Mhm.
then maybe that's not a good fit. Like, I still have to be sensitive to geography in my league, and Debbie talked about staffing before, and I lost two schools in New England because they moved to one of her leagues. I this year I didn't bring back quite a few people from New England, not because of their officiating ability, but because I don't have games for them. I do need to have people. Now I just inherited it. Last year was the first year I had a school in Chicago. So I've been trying to figure that demographic out because I need to have people who are geographic to schools in case we have bad weather, whether it affects their game or somebody else's game that I need to make switches that I don't, I'm sure my conference would be happier if I did not have, because we're 1,200 under 200 miles and 1,300 over. So the schools cost share the extra.
Mm.
So I have to be sensitive to that. I have to be sensitive to budgets, especially in the new world. So Wayne, I'm going to kind of cheat because I saw one of the chat question came up
Yes, yes.
about age. I am the worst judge of age of anybody, I think, in the United States of America. If I were single and I would go into a bar, I don't think I would know how old anybody was in that bar, which could probably
Right.
get me into trouble if they got in with a fake ID. And you would never hear from me again because I'd be locked up. So I am the worst judge of it. Listen, if I watch somebody and I think that they can do the job and they're worthy of a spot in the pool, I'll hire them. It's just that simple for me.
Right.
Well, and
Right.
I had Tony Brothers, NBA official, MEAC supervisor at my camp, and somebody asked him, I think they were 55 and wanting to try to get in the G League, and he said, "No, you're too old." And I was like, only Tony could say this and get away
Right.
with it.
Right.
But so when you say, is someone, does age have something to do with it? I've had to have the conversation with people who cannot consistently get to the end line before play settles. Now, even every now and then, and as far as we were talking about Joe earlier, as far as foot speed goes, I haven't seen anybody faster than him.
Mhm.
And even he gets beat sometimes. So I'm not talking about, oh, you never get beat. The best in the business get beat, even at the higher levels.
Right.
But if you are consistently crossing over, you're stepping over the baseline, as play is settling, that's a problem because you're losing angles. The other
Right.
thing too is what I hear our coaches say, and I heard this when I was a national coordinator assigning the NCAA tournament for 3 years, is that person can't keep up with the level of play that our athletes are playing. And I'm going, no, tell me what they're missing. Because there are still some people that are not very fast and they
Mhm.
are aging out, and yet they're still getting more plays right than people who can run like the wind.
Right.
So I think in the end, it's going to be, can you get down there and get the angles that you need to get? And a lot of times the conversations I've had with people who have been refereeing for a very long time is physically, we're all going to lose that foot speed. And maybe the ability, for me, one of my pet peeves is to be able to look behind you while you're running.
Right.
Like literally be able to turn your head. And that's one of the key indicators to me a lot of times when the game is passing someone by, is they cannot literally run full speed with their head turned
Mhm.
to be able to see play. They can, once they cross half court, they're looking straight ahead and they don't turn around and pick up the players until they start trying to slow down without blowing both knees and turn around and look. So I think that,
That's
is there an age cutoff? No, there's not an age cutoff. And there's not one for me to be dropping people. But I tell them, you are declining this way physically, and you're doing the best you can. And so the mental side of it cannot come along with. because
Right.
that shortens your career. So
Correct.
as you recognize that maybe physically, it's kind of like when you're injured sometimes. You know, you can't quite. I have two officials who are expecting babies this season, and they never want me to tell anybody. Eventually, people figure it out. But every year I've got pregnant referees, or every other year I've got pregnant referees. And I go, okay, it's similar in the sense that physically we're not gonna be able to stay at this level. We're coming down. So cognitively, they can't come down at the same time. You better recognize it, whatever your weaknesses are, and make up for it here, and then
Right.
let them come down this way, and maybe you'll buy yourself some time. Um, for people who are aging.
Right.
And I'm 63. Like, I get aging. Things are falling. I mean, things are all over the place. It's not the same. So it's not a criticism. It's actually just a new place.
Right.
And honestly, if we had our way, we would not age, we would not let things decline, we would, all the things. And I tell people, when you don't get what you want, there's a good chance that God protected you from something that you couldn't see.
Come on. Correct. Yes.
There are other opportunities. It doesn't
Correct.
have to be your idea of what the opportunity is.
That's 100%
So
correct.
is there a number? No. Is it hard to pick up someone who's not um as athletic and quick of foot as what we can pick up, you know what I mean? And they're getting plays right, like all other things being equal. Is it the number? No. Is it the ability to get ahead of plays and have the credibility? You know, we had a crew chief meeting, the A4 last week in Charlotte. We had 40
Mhm.
officials between the ACC, SEC, Big 10, and Big 12. And, we spent a lot of time talking about professionalism, and I said, it is not the mark of a professional for some of you to have shown up here overweight.
Mm.
In this business, that is not the mark of a professional athlete, and you are athlete.
Right. Right.
So we do need to control what we can control. And in this business where our players are faster, we've got better teams, we're deeper, all eyes are on us, there's more televised games. I'm going to get the most criticism this year, I can tell you already, when they turn on the TV and they see someone who can't keep up with play, even
Right.
though I know they're getting a lot of plays right.
Right. Yeah.
That's
And
that's what they're gonna bust me on,
of
is
course.
our referees are doing the work every day. What did your referees do? So I had to survey our group. What did you do? What did you do last summer? What do you plan to do this summer? And now I need to circle back and go, what did you do? Because our
Right.
coaches want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're 100% correct. And you're right. And we all know this. Perception drives reality. It really does in everything.
Yeah.
I am so appreciative of you both giving of your time. We need to wrap it up soon. Let's get two more quick questions in so that we can make sure that I get some people in who are outside the state of Oklahoma. How about we try that? Hey, how about Faye? You still with us? Faye, do you have a question for the group?
Hello, y'all. So this is for both of you. There's an unspoken rule that you go to camp 3 times, and if you don't get hired, you just don't go. What are the things that you guys would say to combat that? And once on roster, why not have a minimum game for staff? Because they made roster, like, so clearly they're good enough to be there. Why not?
Can I try and tackle this first,
Sure.
Debbie? So I don't know whoever said, first of all, if you're going, you should be going to camp to get better. That really is what it's supposed to be. And I know I'm speaking like it seems like it's dream world. And if you pinch me, I'll wake up, because I know how officials look at camp, and it's, whether, you're essentially trying out, you're interviewing. But if you think about some of the things that Debbie said before about, you know what, maybe the 3 times you go, you're not better than the people that Debbie has on staff or I have or Patty or Lisa or any of us. Because maybe the things that you've been told to work on by by the clinicians, especially since they're giving this feedback to the coordinator who runs the camp. If you go 3 years in a row and you're doing the same thing all 3 years and you're not taking any of the information, maybe, and you're hearing the same feedback from the clinicians on the court, if they're telling you the same thing 3 years in a row, that I think that's an official's problem. That has nothing to do with the supervisor. That's an official who either they think they know more than the clinician who's giving them the advice, or they think the clinician is wrong and that they're just fine because nobody's ever told them that before. So I kind of have a problem with that. And again, you're going to camp because you're trying to get better. It's like I also see officials who they'll go to a camp that's like across the country because they want to get different feedback. I've heard that a lot from officials. Like when I'll see somebody at a camp, in Pennsylvania and they live in Wyoming, and I'm thinking to myself, like, so I'll ask them. I have no problem asking somebody a question like, "Why are you here?" And they'll say, well, I wanted to hear from different clinicians. I wanted to get different feedback. Well, do they really want to get different feedback? Because there's no way of knowing that they're not getting the same feedback they've gotten at camps in their part of the world. And it's almost like they think that the clinicians in that part of the world don't know what they're talking about. So let me go someplace else and maybe they'll tell me what I want to hear there. So that's part of it. Faye, give me the second part of your question because I want to make sure I answer it.
Why not give everybody on the roster a game?
Why not give everybody? There may not be enough games. So listen, I'm the perfect example. So I'll just tell you because I don't keep secrets. So I told you before I have this school in Chicago, right? And so I added some Chicago people. I did some additions. I did some subtractions based on things I saw during the course of the year. Well, then they send me the conference schedule and they have 2 home non-conference games. Now, when I hire new people, my coach, like, I want any official I hire, actually every official I hire, I want them to last in this business long after I'm gone, sitting by the pool in Florida, enjoying complete retirement. So I want officials to outlast me. Well, that means that I need to take you along, kind of slowly. And I'm talking about brand new to Division One. So yes, I will try. I will do my best to try and get people at least like 2, but I can't always do that with new hires because I may not have the games for them. Like let's look at let's look at the world today. Okay? My schools, so we're talking lower Division One. They are playing most of their non-conference schedule on the road because I may have a school in upstate New York that's going to go play Syracuse. And yes, they're going to lose by 50, but they're getting a check. And that check, and plus a couple other checks that they get for getting their brains beat in, may fund 50% of the athletic department. This is the reality today. Okay, like even some of my D1s are paying like D2s to play it's an exhibition for the D2 school because their season technically hasn't started, but under the crazy rules that we have, not playing rules but other rules, it actually counts as a game for the Division One school. So there's a lot of that. Like the number of games I have to assign is never the same from year to year. And so that's part of my problem. Like last year, I carried 142 officials on my staff. 96 got games. I am now I went from 142. I'm at 132 this year. But even then, I may still have issues because, again, if schools are not playing home non-conference games, it's harder for me to slot people in. And I just can't ask somebody to drive like 300 miles for a scrimmage, for $125. I can't do that.
Right.
That's just grossly unfair. So, I would love to be able to give everybody a minimum. I just don't have them. But I can't carry 80 people because then when I get into conference play, I may have games where, oh, I have nobody to put on this game because they're all working Division I somewhere else.
Right.
And
November
then,
3rd, November 3rd.
like I might have to go referee, and believe me, we don't want that.
We've hired people on November 3rd because we didn't pick up enough people. And there weren't enough people to go around for opening day. Like, I still cannot believe that we run out of people. And then somebody goes, oh, I decided to close November 3rd for personal. Are you serious?
Mhm.
Like, that is like career suicide. Are you kidding? You didn't know this. Now, it's your anniversary. That's one thing, but you like want to, go get a haircut. Are you kidding me? But I think there are those outliers, like 3 days out of the year where it just seems like we are stretched and we're fussing at each other going, you do not need those 3 people on that, so-and-so and Mother Mary of the Woods. I mean, it's not going to take 3 Final Four officials on that game. And yet some people are trying to keep these people at a certain game count so that they can keep their priority. But what we have too is like one year I was like, I am running out of games. Like, I've got 10 people that didn't even get to the game count they had last year. And I had whittled down every roster so that everybody on the roster could get a game. It was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And then we had COVID. That's a whole nother thing. But we started picking up people for just in case. Well, lo and behold, now we have conference realignment and we have more people working deeper into the season, and all of a sudden priorities are changing and we can't get them. And now I've actually had to resolve myself, especially now that I went west and picked up all these, very experienced West Coast people who have me 4, 3 and 4. A couple of them have me 1 and 2, but most of them I'm waiting on. Because then if I don't get them, now I've got to go deeper into my roster. Yeah, that would be, and I'll tell you, the worst thing in the world is to have to call somebody you let go and ask them if they can help you.
Yeah.
So it's like safer to keep people, which is why for the very first time, people are not required to come to my fall meeting, because it doesn't make sense. They've already paid money to come to camp. They may or may not get a game because they're in the first year. And the other thing too is I've had people that I pick up that all of a sudden now 3 other powers pick them up. And now I'm ranked 4th. And I go, well, there went that, but I'm not going to drop them in the first couple of years because I think they're going to get smart enough at some point and realize that we have the best league and they'll come on over. And if that doesn't happen, eventually you just have to drop them because the NCAA will put them on your game. But I think there have become more and more reasons why it's very disappointing to me that we have people that don't get games, even though we're trying to at least give them their camp money back.
Right.
Like in the back of my mind, I'm trying to give them their camp money back.
Right.
But then I have to reset. This is my job. What is my job? To put the best people on and do all the things we talked about earlier. And it's going to happen again this year. And yes, they're good enough to be on that roster, but then I don't know really who I'm going to have available, especially if people jack up play dates. WBCA, our coaches voted on legislation in May that changed a lot of things about where they can play their games. And I
Mhm.
remember that year I was like, why am I not able to get people where I would like to have them? Then I realized we were like 18 games short from where we were the year before. Time 3,
Right.
that's a significant number of officials because they all decided to go out of the country or to go play road games for guarantee money or, back and forth. We're just getting schedules. We don't even have all the schedules yet. So we don't know how many games we're actually going to have at home. They're all going to play the same number. It just may not be my assignment. And that was a shocker the first year that happened. As far as camp goes, and I was one of those that I went to a Big 12 camp, and I had only been doing Division I a couple years. And I'm telling you, I got roasted by everybody who heard I went to the Big 12 camp. They gave me down the road so bad. Who do you think you are going to that camp? And I truly wanted to see because it was a whole different staff. It was people I had never been around, how they saw the game. Now I knew the game. I mean, clearly, we lost 6 games my entire college career. I clearly played for people who understood basketball. But I really did want to hear what they had to say. I had no expectations of getting picked up in the Big 12. And if I were refereeing today, I'd be going to camps like it wouldn't even make sense, I like to think that people come to our camp because I believe we run the best in the country.
Mhm.
Now, that said, I know people want a job.
Yes.
And I'm not fool enough to think that they're there not wanting to get hired. But as long as I'm taking people on a first come, first serve basis, which I do, and I don't screen anybody. I let whoever wants to come. It's killing us to keep our fees where we have them because the rooms were $296 a night at the group rate. So I think everybody has to make a decision like, where am I going to spend my $2,000 this summer? On one camp out east or right around here and do what, is it worth it for me to, and I don't have the answer to either one of those, but in particular, the camp question. I tell people you don't have to come to my camp to get games. I also tell my people, if you want me to see you, will be at my camp. I would like to go to other people's camps. During COVID, I did. And
Mhm.
honestly, it was easier to go to other people's camps than it is to go to my own. But I have a contract stipulation that I have to provide a camp, a training in the summer. So like, I can't just blow it off. Now, and the reason I didn't do it during COVID is because I knew people would come.
Right.
And I didn't want to be responsible for them getting sick and taking it back home and getting their family sick because they would have come.
Right.
I'd have come.
Yeah.
But I just think I have people that have come to camp for 10 years, honestly. And I look at them and go, why are you coming back? And I've even asked them, why are you coming back? And they were like, I love coming to this. And I don't care what happens. I'm going to get better this time about whatever, because it's boys basketball and I get to see all my friends and this and all that. But I have to keep reminding myself that I'm dealing with adult independent contractors who have to make decisions who are best for them. But
That's
I'm
correct.
also committed to seeing absolutely everybody who comes through the door. And that's
Yeah.
all I can do. Like, I'm doing all I can do in my personal situation. I think y'all need to do whatever you feel like is the best thing for you. I
Yeah.
really do. I think we all have to respect that, whatever it is.
And
And John, I'll give you the last word.
and so I don't run a camp. Division 1, I do not run a camp. I have always had a lovely invitation extended to me by my fellow panelist today, Debbie. Debbie is one of the few coordinators who invites me to her camp. And you know, I'm always because I want to go to camps more for, apologize for the cuckoo clock. I want to go because I want to teach a class. Like I want to, and I'll teach whatever she asks me to teach is what I teach. But I also have the ability to go watch people referee. I go to D2 and D3 camps within my footprint because I'm also looking for my other conferences, but I'm also looking for people, let's say, who are in Division Two, who maybe don't work for me in Division Two, but I see them on a game and they live within my geographic footprint for Division One, and it gives, if I like them and they you know, they show me that they can handle this and they deserve a spot on the roster, then I'll hire them. But and I'll tell my staff where I'm going. Like the only thing any of the officials who referee for me, I all I say to them is, listen, you should go to a teaching camp during the summer. I don't care where you go. I don't care when you go, because again, their personal situation is you know, it's not a cookie cutter for all of them. So, you know, I do want them to, you know, continue their education by going to a teaching camp. But I don't tell them where they have to go. If they ask me where I'm going to be, I'm happy to tell them. But I I don't run my own camp because I'm not as organized, nor do I know enough people who are organized to run it, given everything else going on in my world. So it's just easier for me to get on a plane and go to Lake Point and hang out in Georgia and have some chicken salad chick and other interesting foods that
And he
they
won't
don't
let
have
me pay him.
So,
But he has access to everything my staff has access to, and does a phenomenal job.
Excellent.
So I don't know if that answers it, but
Yeah, I think you both nailed it. Debbie Williamson, John Levinson, thank you both so much for being willing to give your time, your efforts, your energy, your life experiences, and just being open and communicating with the group. And I guarantee you, everyone has pulled something out of this that they will be able to use and utilize moving forward. Thank you both so much. There were a number of questions that we obviously did not get to, so I will email them to you both, respond at your leisure, and then I'll share your responses with the group. Okay?
okay. Thank you
Hey-
for the opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
thank you.
Definitely. Thank you all. You guys, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate everyone's energy and paying attention and being engaged. I really love it. Let's continue to work together. Let's continue to move forward. You know, like we say, we're here to serve those who serve others. So let's continue to work together and just become the best people who we are. Let's represent who we are as individuals. Believe in yourself. All right. Everyone have a great week. Have a great day. And I will talk to everybody soon. Debbie and John, thank you so
Yeah.
Oh,
much.
you're welcome.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for
Thank you
having us.
very much. God bless.
Thanks, guys.